So Craig, the score is love all. Start of your service game. How does this all break down?
In general, I like to think if you win 80% of your service games, it's a good day at the office. So David Ferrer is exactly that in the 2015 season, right at 80%. He's around 35 in the world in that specific category. He's obviously in the top 8 in the world in the rankings, but 80% is a really good number. Now, we're studying the top 8 players in the world, and their average is a little higher than David's. Their average starts out at 86% of all service games that they play. They're going to be winning 80%. So it's a combination of Djokovic, Federer, Nadal, Murray, Ferrer, Nishikori, Berdych, and Wawrinka. So it's all of those top 8. Thank you very much. It's a combination of all of those 8 players. All together, combined, is at 86% at love all. Now, it's either going to go one way or the other. It's either going to go to 15 love or it's going to go to love 15. So the numbers of this are fascinating. And when players discuss this with you and coaches discuss it with you and they say, which is the most important point in a game, I like to come up with and say, I think the last point is the most important point in a game. I'll give you any one of the other ones. But, from looking at this data, and this is data we've never seen before, it's brand new data in our sport that really sheds light on the scoring system and how the scoreboard can drive the strategies, things we've thought about and said, well, we've got opinions about, but now cold hard facts are coming out. It's amazing to see. So if a player, these players combined are at 86%. If they go to 15 love, from 15 love, they have a 93% chance of winning that service game. It's a lock. So it's a big deal to win that first point. If they go love 15, that drops to 73%. So we have a 20 percentage point difference, which is massive after only 1 point.
Yeah, right. 1 point makes a huge difference. Huge difference.
So we've gone from a lock, but basically, okay, things are going really well for me, 93% wonderful, to 3 out of 4. Now, it's not the end of the earth. It's not a losing percentage, but the real thing to focus on here is how much 1 point can really separate between these two.
All right, so Craig, you've now walked up to the line to serve. It's love all. You know the importance of that first point. You win it. As we can see on the board, you're a virtual lock. You lose it, there's a 20 percentage points difference. You're down to 73. What should we be doing to guarantee or at least give us the best shot of winning the first point of the game?
Yeah, it's, identifying these numbers that say how important, speak to how important it is to get to 15 love. I think this love all point should be your highest percentage patterns of play that you will possibly run. You want to, at all costs, remove the risk out of the love all point. So, from a first serve standpoint, it's a lot riskier to serve down the tee than it is to serve body and wide. So I think one of the first things, if the game score is equal, it's love all, it's 3 all, it's 4 all. If you don't have a lead, if you haven't got a little bit of a buffer there, I would take the tee serve off the table because you're going to miss more of those and you're going to give the opponent more looks at a second serve. So I would serve more jam serves. Now, a jam serve in general will come back the most. So we've got a wide serve, a jam serve, and a tee serve. That's the downside of the jam serve. It's going to come back. But the flip side of that, the good side is it comes back weak down the middle of the court. So a jam serve there will pretty much come right down into this middle third of the court, and you can run around and hit as many forehands as possible, and that next shot is going to be going deep to the backhand. So there's nothing wrong with walking up to the line at love all and going, I'm going forehand jam or I'm going backhand jam, depending on the weakness of the opponent. I know it's probably coming back. There'll certainly be some errors that are made there, but I'm going to look for a ball in the middle of the court. A ball at the body, it doesn't necessarily find itself out wide a lot. I'm going to be in the middle. I'm going to take a forehand, and I'm going to go to the backhand side But the number one quality of my first shot is depth. I'm going to push my opponent back. I'm going to go as deep as I possibly can. So I'm stacking up the strength of my first serve, that's a positive. The strength of a forehand, that's a positive. Against probably a backhand jam return, not so good for the opponent, and a backhand on the run, hopefully moving back while they're hitting it. So all of these things start dominoing in your favor and give you a really good chance to go up 15 love, where you can start playing ahead. In general, the more you're ahead, the more risk you can take on. The more you're behind, the less risk you can take on. So I think high percentage plays. The second play that I want to discuss
well,
here.
before we get to that, let's just unpack. You covered a ton of ground there. So just a couple key points. First serve. You're trying to get a first serve in. That's, you know, don't miss that first serve. That's why you're going for the big target. The game score affects it a little bit. If you're starting the match, get the first serve in. If you're up 5-0, then maybe you can go.
I would absolutely go T at 5-0.
Go to the T.
4-1, I would go T.
Or go wide, right? If you've got a lead, you can get a little bit more aggressive. But if it's tight, love all, 3-all, like you said, 5-all, then it becomes one of these. You're setting up the forehand, you're going deep to the backhand, and that is going to put you in the driver's seat for that point. But I wanted to emphasize the importance of the first serve.
Absolutely.
Just because we know the statistics, if the first serve goes in, your winning percentage for that point goes way up. And if you have to hit a second serve, it's kind of a coin flip, right?
Exactly right. Second serves are basically 50-50.
Yep. Okay.
The second strategy at love all, we've got the first one at the body. The second one is the slider wide. Now, it's very important to understand this, is that yes, you are serving to the forehand. Typically, the forehand is going to be the more dominant and the more aggressive shot. But from watching so much video over the years, you will never put a forehand under more pressure on a tennis court than with a wide sliding serve in the deuce court. So it's not a matter of powering it through the player, it's a matter of sliding it off. So you want slice on that serve. Also, a slice serve out wide is still a very high percentage serve for you to make. This, pulling the opponent off the court, pulling them into the alley and even outside the alley, will open up the bigger hole over here in the ad court, and it's going to make them run a little bit harder, run a little bit further. You're going to make a lot of those serves. And this return, you know, the returner should be returning back cross court where you're going to get a forehand. If they do try and go straight down the line, because they're leaning as they hit it, there'll be a lot of errors into the alley. So a lot of times they'll go as much as possible to the backhand with safety. And once again, you're 1 or 2 steps away from a forehand and you're going deep to the backhand corner.
Yeah, so this seems like the, you know, this is kind of the balancing act, it seems like to me, where how good is, how much do you trust that first serve?
Yes.
The more you trust it, then maybe you can get more aggressive with the slider wide. Because there are some benefits. I mean, it does sound like if you get it out wide, you're more likely to get a forehand, just given the natural angles that can create. But that's just something you're going to have to evaluate with your game.
Yes.
Can I make that shot on a regular basis? Do I have that one in my arsenal? If you do, then sure, go wide a little bit more. But if if it's not quite as reliable, then the bigger target becomes the better play.
Yeah, I'll give you a quick story with that. A few years ago, I was coaching Jesse Levine, and I just started working with him, and he had a match that I said, Jesse, you got any old matches that we can evaluate, look at your patterns of play? And Jesse's a lefty, and he was playing Rafael Nadal.
Never heard of him.
In Canada.
Up and comer?
Up and comer,
okay.
Yes. From Spain, I believe.
Okay, gotcha.
So Jesse's first serve of the match, you know, we start here, Jesse's a lefty, and Rafa's a lefty, and Jesse aims at the tee. And it doesn't matter so much that we're going forehand or backhand, but the tee, even for a lefty that naturally slides down there, is a tough spot to hit. He aimed at the tee on the first point of the match, missed it. Rafa gets a look at a second serve, crushes a forehand return. It's love 15 for Jesse. On the second point of the match, Jesse goes tee again, misses the first serve, gives Rafa another look at a second serve, and all of a sudden, in the first game, Jesse's already down love 30, and Rafa's hammering forehand returns. And I stopped and I went, Jesse, you know, we're already into some really good things to help you improve. Those first serves in the first service game of the match must go body. You can't be aiming at small targets. So then we go and look at Rafa's first service game. First point, he goes body at Jesse. Second point, he goes body at Jesse. And so that really hammered home the idea that, you know, even though he might like to go to the tee, and the tee is a great place to serve if the opponent doesn't know it's going there, and certainly if the score doesn't pressure you, but that's a really good example of starting out a match with high percentage patterns, and especially starting out the match making your first serve.
Yeah, it's the, you know, we have the percentages from point to point. It's love all, and we know what happens with the percentages if you win the point. We know what happens with the percentages when you lose the point. But then there are the percentages within the point.
Yes.
The percentages of what's likely to happen if you go tee versus body versus wide, etc. And we need to be really mindful of those as we kind of take the bigger picture of all these stats.
Yeah, there's so many times that I've watched points. I mean, points in tennis basically kick to the ad court with somebody trying to take their forehand, which is their strength, to the backhand, which is typically the weakness. And you know, we use the analogy of the sword and the shield. The forehand is the sword; it's the shot you attack with. The backhand's the shield; it's the shot that you need to stay alive. You know, the general role of the backhand is not to miss. The general role of the forehand is to try and force you to miss. So in the start of this point, it's really, really simple, and I see it on the Pro Tour all the time. You're copying one of the best patterns from the Pro Tour is just take a forehand immediately to the backhand and start building the point from there.